Hey friends, I'm Kristina Guerrero, former small-town girl with dreams of Hollywood and red carpets and a belief that I could make those dreams come true. So, I did. But life had more in store for me. From a drinking problem to getting sober, then a breast cancer diagnosis, and finding God, I discovered a strength in me I never knew I had. I wrote a memoir about my life she believed she could. So in each episode, I'm sharing one chapter from my story. From page to podcast, this is She Believed.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome back. This is episode 7 of She Believed. I am your host, a little disheveled Kristina Guerrero. Can I be honest with you? Because I haven't really been in the last 6 episodes. I'm recording this number 2. That sounded really weird. Anyway, this is the second time I'm recording this because I just recorded, was having some major technical difficulties. Hello, podcast party of one. And then I realized after 15 minutes of recording my episode, there was no audio. So here we are again. Just need a big, huge podcasting company to pick up my show so we can I don't need a ton of help, right? Just the basics. Today, I'm super excited for this episode because I get to let you in on a part of my life that is just filled with so much fun and coolness and, that big dream come true. But also, as always, right? It's not the full story. Like I said in episode 2, The Big Believe, it was my dream to be on Entertainment Tonight. That was my dream, to interview movie stars on the red carpet. And I don't know, maybe there was a part of me at one point that wanted to be the movie star, but I really found that the gifts God gave me were really about interviewing people, talking to people, connecting with people. That's just who I am. I love talking to people. And so I just wanted to do it on a big Hollywood stage. With artists and musicians and actors. And so while I did dream of being on Entertainment Tonight, or ET as they call it, I don't know if there was a mix up in the universe and they were handing out job assignments and they're just like, what did she say? Did she say ET or did she say E? Or was it ET? You know what? We're just going to send her to E. I think that's close enough. So while I never made it to ET, as the dream job, the universe doesn't know all the particulars of all the shows. So I was assigned to E Entertainment. Funny story about ET though. Early on, I had an audition. They were doing a new show called ET on MTV. So it was Entertainment Tonight on MTV. And I auditioned super early and green in my career. And I auditioned. And so, I'm 23. I drive into the Paramount lot and I'm at Entertainment Tonight. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I manifested this. I can't believe I dreamt of being at ET one day and I am here at Entertainment Tonight. While I technically did not make it on Entertainment Tonight, I made it into the door at Entertainment Tonight. Anyway, so this episode today is about my time at E Entertainment Television, which was the pinnacle, right? I was talking to my sister-in-law recently and she's like, you talk about E like it was like the crescendo of your career. And I'm like, it was the big believe that I could do this on a national stage, that I could be on TV interviewing TV stars on this kind of national stage. And by the time I was 27 years old, it happened. And while I had an incredible time there, of course, there were highs and there were lows. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the highs and also a little bit about the lows and how that also, comes full circle with a lot of the things that I was carrying and how imposter syndrome, how insecurity, anxiety really, gosh, such a bummer, but really, marked my time at E. So as always, I'm going to start with an excerpt from my book. I wanted to give you some context because in the first episode with no audio, technical difficulties, I realized that my excerpt was way too long. So I just want to give you some context of where we're coming in. I had just completed 3 years in San Antonio working on a show called Great ASA, which my people in San Antonio, I just adore you guys. I haven't been there in 15 years and yet I still hear from the kindest, most loyal people from San Antonio. So I just finished 3 years in San Antonio and my agent had brought me back to Hollywood, which was the agreement. He said, you go to San Antonio, it's like your master's degree, learn your craft, and I'm going to bring you back to Hollywood and you're going to be ready for that ET on MTV job because I wasn't quite ready for it yet. So he brings me back into a position that isn't the right fit. And I knew it off the bat. So that's where we're going to pick up. So this chapter is called Dream Come True. Here we go. After a particularly excruciatingly demoralizing day at work, I drove to the beach, sat on a bench, and watched the waves crash and bawled. I cried and cried and cried and prayed. God, this doesn't feel right. Is this what I signed up for? I've wanted it so badly for so long, but this can't be it, can it? Please send me a sign that this is not what you want from me. I wiped my tears and drove home. And the following day, there was an email from my agent. Kristina, great news. You have an audition with E! News. Call me, Mel. I met with E! Entertainment's casting director, Annie Roberts, a few years prior. I was right out of college at the time, and while I didn't have much experience, I landed representation at one of the top broadcasting agencies, Ken Lindner and Associates, which is why I'm sure she agreed to meet with me. Annie liked me, but thought I was too inexperienced for the internationally known brand, which was true. But now, I had experience under my belt, a whopping 3 years of live local TV, and barely a few months on a nationally syndicated show where I was failing miserably, but it was enough to get an audition. Annie was casting for the network's digital arm, E! News Now. In 2008, I thought, who's going to watch TV on a computer when you could just rush home and turn on the TV at 6:59 p.m., just in the nick of time to catch an entire half hour of E! News at 7 p.m.? But okay, I guess. I was sure this digital thing was just a fad, but it allowed me to show them I was ready for the flagship show. The audition process was thorough. I must have gone back to read for them 4 or 5 times, which I thought was a lot. It was nerve-wracking each time. I was popping little white Xanax pills to keep those nerves at bay, so that I could dazzle with my personality without choking on my insecurities. My final audition had a stop at hair and makeup, which was usually reserved for the upper echelon of TV shows, and not always for auditions. I was so close. And then the offer. Hallelujah. One snag, though. Because it was the online version of E! News, I would be making half of my current salary. The other job, while awful, generously paid 27-year-old me more money than I ever imagined. I didn't care. I'll take the pay cut if it means I land in a place that I love. The advice of a one-time mentor echoing in my ear. If you do what you love, the money will come. Also, at that age, the only financial obligation I had was to the sales girls at BB, which resulted in some bad fashion choices at the time anyway. So there I was at E! News. Our small but mighty team for E! News Now produced breaking news stories that people could watch anytime during the day and didn't have to wait for the 7 p.m. broadcast. Imagine that. News whenever you wanted it, right at your fingertips. We were so ahead of the curve. But at the time, it didn't have the same cachet as the broadcast version of the show. We felt very much like the underclassmen idolizing the E! News senior class, particularly class president and star quarterback Ryan Seacrest and homecoming queen Juliana Rancic. That's how I felt anyway. So when I got called to work on the big show, I was like a dang giddy schoolgirl. Then I was called to fill in on E! News' sister show, The Daily 10. A list of the top 10 entertainment news stories of the day, hosted by Sal Masekela, Kat Sadler, and Debbie Matenopoulos. I watched Debbie on The View in high school and was impressed by her youthfulness and envied her success on such a big stage. The fact that she was now standing in front of me, welcoming me to the show, was unreal. I used to watch you when I was in high school, I enthusiastically said. So cool, she replied. The producer who had brought me to the studio to meet the team nudged me and said, "You just reminded her that she's old and that you're young." Oh gosh, that's not what I meant. But Debbie didn't seem to take any offense to my innocent enough comments, and she was welcoming and gracious, as they all were. I was so terrified to fail, I could have vomited right there on the stage. But I pulled myself together and had a great show. What a relief. What a high. I wanted more opportunities. I wanted more of that feeling, minus the feeling of impending failure and vomiting, of course. One afternoon, as I was driving into the studio parking lot, I saw one of the higher-level executives cross in front of my car. It was quite an ordinary occurrence, but I had an extraordinary experience in that moment, a feeling that his crossing my path was not a coincidence at all. About an hour later, my agent called me. "You're going to be called into a meeting with the executives. Samantha Harris is leaving the show. They want you to replace her on E! News." Holy moly, I could hardly believe it. 6 months after starting at E! News Now, I was promoted to the flagship show. It was an absolute dream come true. For 6 years, I had the opportunity to live out my wildest childhood dreams. red carpets and movie stars, meeting extraordinary people I admired from the old raggedy couch at Grandma's house were now sitting in front of me, talking to me, laughing with me, connecting with me. I traveled to Istanbul, Turkey to interview Daniel Craig for 3 minutes about a James Bond movie, Nashville to chat it up with Taylor Swift, and Washington, D.C. for belly laughs with Robin Williams. I worked at every award show under the bright California sun, Academy Awards, Grammys, Emmys, Golden Globes, and People's Choice Awards. I don't have enough pages in this book to list all the award ceremonies Hollywood throws for itself, but if they had it, I was there. I wore pretty dresses and fancy shoes that cost more than my first car, and I stood shoulder to shoulder with some of the best in my business. I reported on some of the biggest entertainment news stories in the history of Hollywood, many of them tragic, like Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston's passing, but still, to be at the epicenter of Hollywood at the height of celebrity pop culture felt like I was a part of something big. Oh man, how does a small town girl from Washington State end up on red carpets interviewing movie stars at E! News? By the grace of God. Gosh, I'm so grateful for that time in my life. I'm grateful because, this podcast can't be called She Believed she could, and then she actually didn't. So it truly was the time of my life. So yes, if you didn't grow up with me or you're not related to me by blood or marriage, those of you out there, maybe you know me from E! News, right? I was the first Latina to host and to be a consistent presence on E! News, and that was such a huge honor for me. I'll talk about that more in the next episode. Gosh, I was 27 years old, living out my wildest dream. And I got to tell you, it was surreal. It was surreal. A lot of times I just couldn't believe I had made it. Like, it was like I dreamt of this moment. I wished for this moment. I prayed for this moment. And then this moment totally happened. What? That's crazy. Man, I wish that for everybody. I wish for everybody to have that experience, that they have a dream that seems so unreachable, and then it happens, because man, that is a rush. That is a high. And so, yeah, working at E! News and working also with the people that I worked with, working with Ryan Seacrest and Juliana Rancic was super cool. It was super cool. Often I was intimidated, right? Like, one time I overheard Ryan, they were doing the show and I was, getting coffee. And so I heard the feed going through. So he's in the studio and I can watch, kind of watch the TV. And he said, "Oh, Kristina Guerrero, we got a new one. She's really good. She's really good." And then he was like, "Should we give her a reality show?" He's like, "You know what? I'm going to work on this Kardashian thing first, and then we'll see about her." Just kidding. That never happened. That part never happened. But yeah, no, that was just such a cool time. People always ask me what it was like, and it really was a dream come true. I think I worked at the coolest entertainment show that was out there at the time. During that time, celebrity pop culture was at its height, right? It was before Twitter. It was before Instagram. It was before celebrities put out everything on social media, right? So we were the liaison between the fans and the audience, and then like the movie stars. So we're in the middle. And so being a part of that just felt like, it's entertainment, right? Like, I'm not trying to say that we saved lives, like, people on the front lines of war, those kinds of journalists, but it was just really cool. Do I have better words than cool? I don't know. It was just a really fun time in my life. I got to wear fancy shoes, cool outfits. I had a wardrobe stylist and hair and makeup. And also my family got to come and see me, which was really cool. Like, my mom and my sisters and my brothers got to come and see me work. And I got to take my sister to red carpet events. And I got to take my niece to movie premieres, and she got to meet her idols. I got to meet my idols. Just some of the biggest movie stars. And I got to have a moment with them. Even if it was press for them, it meant a lot to me. The biggest, right? The biggest celebrities, Brad Pitt and Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts. Then I also got to meet people who were aspiring, who were hoping that one day they were going to make it. One such person, cute, tall blonde, who was just excited for the possibilities. Taylor Swift, maybe you know her. Justin Bieber at the beginning of his career, Selena Gomez at the beginning of her career, just these bright-eyed, hopeful young people who were just hoping to make a name for themselves. And then they ended up being huge stars. That was really cool to be on the front lines of a lot of that. But like with everything, there was a flip side. And that flip side was really hard for me because while on the surface, it all just seemed so cool and so glamorous, I was really dealing with a lot of insecurity and a lot of imposter syndrome. I talked about it in the last episode when it comes to money and not feeling worthy and not feeling good enough. And certainly while I had manifested this and prayed for this and worked really hard for this, and then once I achieved it, I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Clearly, they got something wrong. Clearly, I am not good enough. Clearly, they're going to find out that I shouldn't be here. And that kind of anxiety was debilitating, was very debilitating for me. Kind of mentioned it in the excerpt, popping little white Xanax pills. And did I mention I had a pill popping problem? In addition to my drinking problem, there was also Xanax. I had started on Xanax a few years prior to E to combat my anxiety that I had on television. Like this was my love and this was my livelihood. This was my dream. And what happened was I got so caught up in controlling it. And like, it was so fragile that if I broke it, that if I dropped it, it was going to shatter and it was all going to be gone. So that kind of control and that kind of anxiety to hold on so tight manifested in me debilitating anxiety and debilitating panic attacks. And I kept them at bay with Xanax. Can't a story just be good? Why do I have to blow it with all my anxiety? Can't this just be a fun story about how I interviewed Zac Efron and Brad Pitt? I'd have to blow it with all the bummer stuff. But yeah, no, it was tough. It was a tough time. It was tough because on the one hand, I was living my dream and having a great time doing it. But on the other hand, I was terrified every single day, almost every single day, whether it was conscious or not conscious, right? Every single day that I would be found out, that they would find out that I was not supposed to be there, that I was really not good at my job. And so it was really challenging. Those years were really hard. And there was one part within that where I had a panic attack on set. And, man, if you've never had a panic attack, count your blessings because they are not fun. And certainly they're not fun when you're around people. But I had had a few panic attacks. And so I was able to keep them at bay with Xanax. But the problem with Xanax is the more you take it, the less it works. You have to take more of them for them to work effectively. So I had been taking them so consistently and over a long period of time that I was taking 2, 3, 4 Xanax, popping them at one time, and nothing was helping me. Like my panic attacks were taking me outside of my body. And so I went to my doctor and I said, I'm having panic attacks at work. This is what I love the most in the world. I need you to give me a stronger Xanax. I mean, was I asking for a horse tranquilizer? I mean, if it works, will that help? And as she saw what I was going through, which was taking 5, 6 Xanax at a time and drinking and nothing was working, she's like, you have a problem. The problem with coming off of Xanax is that it gets worse before it gets better. So I literally felt like I was crawling out of my skin. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't go to work for a few days. And I had to go to like intense behavioral therapy to help me manage my panic attacks. I mean, what am I going to do? Just be like, sorry, I can't do this job. I can't do my dream job anymore because I have panic attacks? Like that is never going to happen. So what do I need to do? Learning how anxiety and panic works in your body and that fight or flight really helped me process what was happening to my body when I would start going into these anxiety-inducing panic attacks. Recognizing that I feel like I'm in danger, that triggers all these other things, which triggers these other things: racing heart, dry mouth, can't speak, I can't catch my breath, shaking, and just being able to recognize my triggers and what helps calm those things, right? Like grounding myself, taking deep breaths, reminding myself, you are not in danger. Ryan Seacrest is not going to attack. I just wanted to be perfect. I just so badly wanted to be perfect, and nobody's perfect, right? And so when I would fail or when I would mess up or, things wouldn't go right, it just took me into it would send me spinning. And then I started having panic attacks about having panic attacks. I mean, it was a sick cycle. It was a sick cycle. And that's such a bummer because this was a time in my life that I could that I wish that was a gift. It was such a gift to me to be a girl who just dreamed of this moment. And then for me to be so scared of it, to be so scared of it, to be so scared that it was going to be taken away from me. It was just painful. And I read books and I did yoga and I worked out and I tried not to drink during the week because I noticed, surprise, alcohol will give you anxiety. And then I would just have to take myself out of it, right? Like I would have to not overthink it. I would have to intentionally not overthink something. I'd be going in for a big interview with a big star, a big celebrity, and I would be nervous or whatever. And I'm like, Kristina Guerrero. I would talk to myself, Kristina Guerrero, you know how to do this. You know what you're doing. Go in there and do it. And I had some great moments. Man, I had some great moments. I had some great moments with some of the biggest stars in the world. And I'm so grateful for that. And I just regret that. I regret that I just didn't live in it more, that I was so in my head. I wish I would have lived in it. That imposter syndrome, that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. I think for me, what I've learned, I was 27. I was there from 27 to 34. I was so young in my career. Because I was so young, I don't know that I had the tools clearly that I have today to not take myself so seriously, to enjoy the moment more. And now I'm like, heck yeah, I deserve to be there. Heck yeah, I was good. I was really good at my job. I was really good. And dang, my metabolism was so good, I could fit into those dresses so perfectly. I think the hardest part too is that when my time at E was over and, there was change in management and they were going in new directions and, by then I had been so exhausted living in these two places of anxiety, but also my dream job, every day being afraid of being anxious, being afraid of living in panic attacks. And so it was a relief, but also I didn't think it was going to be over. Right. I didn't think that was going to be the end. I mean, it wasn't the end. Right. So yeah, so I had some great moments with celebrities. When Magic Mike, do you guys remember that movie? When that movie came out, I interviewed Matthew McConaughey and Channing Tatum, and they did a dance. Channing Tatum did a dance for me where I put $1 in his pants. I mean, that's the kind of journalism. That's the kind of hard-hitting journalism I'm about. But also some super embarrassing moments. Oh my gosh, let me tell you this one. So I had just had Mateo and I was breastfeeding and I was pumping. And if you've ever breastfed or know a woman who is breastfed, maybe your wife, just hearing a baby cry, your bodies are incredible, right? Because just hearing a baby cry or talking about a baby will make your boobies start making milk, right? I had just come back from maternity leave and I'm about to interview Demi Lovato. And I'm talking to her publicist and she's like, oh my gosh, you're back. Congratulations on the new baby. And we're talking about baby and baby and baby and baby and baby and baby and baby. And then they're like, okay, Kristina, we're ready for the interview. So I turn around to the cameras and I'm standing there and Demi's getting ready to come over and stand next to me. And my camera guy, who's a camera guy, comes up to me and he's like, I'm Kristina. And I look down at my silk blouse and there's a big milk stain right where my boob was. And Demi's walking up and what am I going to do? I think my camera guy gave me his jacket so I could do the interview with Demi Lovato without a big, huge breast milk stain on my shirt. That was a good story. The kindest celebrity that I've ever interviewed is hands down George Clooney, which sounds like a cliche. Like he can't really be that nice, but he was genuinely a kind human being. I was super nervous to interview him. Obviously, he's a huge star, a lot of times these big stars or just celebrities in general, they're kind of annoyed that they've been asked the same question over and over again. And, you know, you just never know what you're going to get, right? So he's coming up and I'm feeling nervous. I'm like, what if he's mean? What if he doesn't want to talk to me? What if I sound stupid? What if I don't ask the question properly? He comes up and he locks into me like I'm the only person there. I'm on a line of all these other reporters and cameras flashing, and he locks in on me like I am the only person there, and that my question, whatever it is the most important question that he's going to answer. He made me feel like $1,000,000. He made me feel like I mattered and like he could see me. And that was like, that's why you're a movie star. That's why. That same red carpet event was also with Tom Hanks. And just funny and fun. And, you know, I if you know me, I have a big, huge laugh. And man, we just had these big, huge, like belly laughs. And yeah, I found a lot of times that the bigger the celebrity, maybe it's the less they have to prove, the kinder they were. I interviewed Adam Sandler on the red carpet, and I was super new. And I was very nervous. And his wife had just announced that they were having another baby. And so a lot of times personal questions are off limits on these things. They just want to talk about the movie. And so I was like, I just heard that you're having a baby. Congratulations. And his publicist comes in and she's like, no personal questions. He must have seen my face that I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Because he just politely moved her out of the way. And he's like, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat your question? And I was like, I heard you're having a baby. He's like, and he was just so gracious and so kind. And he's like, and gave me a great soundbite. And then he was off. And I'm like, and he didn't have to do that because let me just tell you, a lot of celebrities are not that gracious and not that kind. You know, it was the exception. People always ask me, who's the nicest person you ever interviewed? Who's the worst person you ever interviewed? I don't ever talk about that one because I just find that, you know, we're all going through our own stuff, and I don't want anyone talking bad about me. Maybe I had a bad day and they're like, Kristina, she's the worst. I don't want people saying that about me. And so, you know, I just take it with a grain of salt. I just recognize like, hey, maybe they were having a bad day, or maybe they're just an asshole. I don't know. It's not about me. But yeah, no, I have had some experiences with celebrities who left me in tears or who made me feel this big. But man, I guess you do that. That happens in life every day to everybody. Doesn't have to be a celebrity. Although for whatever reason, having it done by a celebrity just makes it feel real crappy. But yeah, that was a great time in my life. That was a really, really great time in my life. And I got, you know, towards the end, I got burnt out on celebrity. You know, I remember going to a red carpet event and Khloe Kardashian had just changed her hair color, but she'd also just done this other thing too. And so I opted to ask her about the other thing. And I went back to work and they were like, you didn't ask her about her hair color. I'm like, I didn't. I asked her about this other thing. How did you forget to ask her about her hair color? It was like the apocalypse, like everything was raining down. And those was one of those times where I'm like, see, I'm just terrible at my job. Of course, it started out defensive, like, who cares about her hair color? But then afterwards I was like, see, I'm terrible. Nobody likes me. I should be fired. So I did kind of start to get burnt out towards the end on celebrity, and really wanted to move into lifestyle, and which is eventually what I ended up doing and coming to Phoenix to host a syndicated lifestyle show called The List, which I just adored and had so much fun doing. Celebrity has changed so much since I was in that world. Here we are in 2025. It is not the same as it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and certainly not the way it was when I was there, because we do have social media and stars are putting out their own information, and we don't wait till 7:00 to watch a TV show. I mean, have it right at our fingertips, which Kristina just was like, this is not a thing. Who would ever watch this on their computer? We didn't even know we could watch it on our phones at that point. I'm not old. The technology is just moving very quickly. Okay. I still love movies. I still love artists. I still love actors, and I love studios, and I love the way TV shows are made. I'm in awe of that world. I'm sad that it's changed. I was just having this conversation. I'm in love with old Hollywood. Like, I was born in the wrong era because I love old Hollywood, and to see that Hollywood has changed so much, and movie making has changed, and celebrity has changed. And it's a bummer, you know. I like the good old days, but like everything, it all evolves. So anyway, yeah, while I dealt with these mental health challenges during that time with my anxiety and my panic attacks and feelings of that imposter syndrome feeling. I'm super lucky. I'm so grateful that I got to realize my dream in such a profound way that I'm just super grateful for that time in my life. And I wish I would have enjoyed it just a little bit more. I know you're not supposed to feel important because of external validation or what you do or your job. I know all these things, but still, it was rad. Made me feel good when it wasn't making me feel super anxious. And so I'm just grateful for that time. I'm grateful for that time, but I'm also grateful for what it represented for me on a bigger scale. And that was, as I mentioned before, being the first Latina on E! News. Man, that was super cool and a responsibility that I did not take lightly. So next episode, that's where we're going to dive into. We're going to talk about how important it was for me to represent my people in a positive way. When I was little, I did see people that looked like me on TV. I wanted to represent that for other little girls who were watching me at home. That was super important. But also kind of straddling these two worlds of being Mexican American, but also American American, and not really ever feeling like I fit in completely on one side or the other. So the next episode is called Latina Enough? With a question mark. Latina enough? Am I Latina enough? And all that comes with that identity. So thank you so much for taking this trip down memory lane, back to Hollywood, back to E! News. That's kind of where that's where I hear, I used to watch you on E! News the way I did with Debbie Matnopoulos when I was like, I used to watch you when I was in college. People do that to me all the time. I just got an email. I used to watch you in college. I used to watch you in high school. And I love it. I'm so grateful. I'm just like, that's really cool. That is really cool. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. I can't wait to see you next time.
Hey, you're still here. Man, your dedication to get to the end, that's inspiring. I'd be so grateful if you hit that follow button and share this episode. And if you really loved it, hey, leave a review, because validation is my love language. Until next time, in the immortal words of Journey, don't stop believing.